Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the U.S. Africa Business Summit hosted by the Corporate Council on Africa in partnership with the government of Angola. To begin this opening ceremony, I would like to welcome the President and CEO of Corporate Council on Africa, Florizel Lizzie.
Your Excellency, President Lorenzo, all excellencies, heads of state and government, heads of African institutions, private sector executives and CEOs, esteemed ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed, good morning. It is truly a pleasure to personally welcome you, all of you, to the 2025 U.S. Africa Business Summit here in Luanda, Angola. This year's theme, Pathways to Prosperity, reflects more than just the economic possibilities ahead for the United States and the nations of Africa. It speaks to the work, dedication, and relationships that make trade, investment, and business between the U.S. and the continent of Africa possible. It reminds us that prosperity is built through partnership, trust, and a commitment to unlocking opportunities that benefit all of us. For over 3 decades, the Corporate Council on Africa has been privileged to convene and work alongside governments, businesses, and institutions that believe in strong U.S.-Africa commercial ties. From increasing trade flows and investment opportunities to supporting critical infrastructure and digital transformation and convening our flagship U.S. Africa Business Summit, our collective efforts are shaping a future where Africa and the United States thrive together. I was delighted when His Excellency President Lorenzo participated in the summit 1 year ago in Dallas and championed his vision for Angola to host the 2025 U.S. Africa Business Summit. And here we are today. But our journey to this very moment is bigger than just the summit. It is a reflection of the enduring partnership between the United States and the nations of Africa, a partnership built on shared prosperity, mutual respect, and a commitment to unlocking new opportunities for trade, investment, and business. The Corporate Council on Africa works every day to share Africa's story of unprecedented growth, innovation, and boundless investment potential. Across the continent, we see entrepreneurs bringing fresh ideas to life, industries expanding in new directions, and communities finding ways to build a stronger future. The U.S. private sector is a critical part of that journey, not just as investors, but as long-term partners committed to collaboration and shared success. So today, I encourage all of us to approach this summit with a spirit of collaboration. Let's think beyond just business deals and transactions, but towards long-term transformation. Let's build connections that go beyond boardrooms and into real, lasting partnerships in our lives. I'm inspired by the leadership in this room, excited about the conversations ahead over these next few days, and optimistic about what we will accomplish together. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to us having a fantastic summit. Thank you.
I have the pleasure now to call the CCA Board Chairman, John Holahide.
Thank you, Flory, and Your Excellencies, honorable ministers here, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and as we like to say in Africa, all protocols observed. As the chairman of the Corporate Council on Africa, I am honored and to welcome you to the 17th U.S. Africa Business Summit. And I want to take this moment to congratulate President Lorenzo on the 50th anniversary of this nation and also on your chairmanship of the African Union. Let's put our hands together for President Lorenzo. Congratulations. You know, as an African with successful businesses on both continents, in the US and across Africa, in some ways, this summit embodies, in some ways, I embody what this summit represents and really what it aims to achieve. Earlier in my life, I traveled from Nigeria to Dallas, Texas to go get a college education. I used what I learned and took advantage of the opportunities that I saw to create the world's leading home healthcare technology company. Today, it's a global leader in technology to power the delivery of the highest quality healthcare at home, and it continues to grow and impact millions around the world. While doing so, I've always remained engaged in Africa. And in recent years, I've been using my good fortune to make investments that help create jobs by establishing businesses to help Africans prosper. Today, my Africa-focused holdings and investments company, Cavista Holdings, has investments in several sectors across different countries. We have investments in software technology, agriculture, hospitality, fintech, and some others. Now, as the chairman of CCA, the past few years, I've been working with a team to build on all the success that CCA has had over the years, to build on the success of those who've contributed to all that CCA is today, and especially during the first 3 decades, and helping both Africa and America benefit from the demographic realignment in our world that will make Africa much more important to the global economy in the decades to come. Each year, the U.S. Africa Business Summit serves as a forum for U.S. and African businesses and government leaders to conveniently get together and meet each other and spend time together, make connections, have conversations, and amplify all the success that's already happening. I very much look forward to working closely with all of our U.S. and African leaders on the government and private sector sides and other stakeholders to accelerate economic development, foster transformative partnerships between the U.S. and Africa, and improve the lives on the continent, improve the lives of everyone on the African continent, in the U.S., and all over the world. The rich variety of sessions at this year's summit highlight the areas of opportunity for adding value. And I believe that if we all lean in with intention, we can unlock all the value creation that's needed across the continent. The recent outstanding summits in Marrakesh, Morocco, Gaborone, Botswana, and Dallas are tough acts to follow. I know that. But I am confident that all of you will learn a lot by being here and explore all the different opportunities that we'll learn from each other as we spend our time in Luanda, Angola. A few facts, if I may share, that highlight the opportunity presented over the next few days and in the decades to come. Africa's GDP has been growing at a rate that surpasses the global average. The continent is home to 6 of the top 10 world's fastest growing economies, offering immense business opportunities, immense opportunities to create value and transform lives across the continent. Africa has a rapidly growing middle class, with consumer spending expected to surpass $2.1 trillion this year alone. Now, with the launch of the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, Africa, as we all know in this room, now has one of the world's largest free trade markets of $1.3 billion. People, let me say that again, 1.3 billion people and a combined GDP of $3.4 trillion. Did you hear me say that? 1.3 billion people and a combined market of $3.4 trillion. That's an incredible market, and that's poised to grow a lot because I think there are lots of areas that are still left untapped. Intra-African trade will expand, and Africa will also play an important role in global shifting supply chains. I want to thank all of our esteemed guests, including all the heads of states represented here. It's really an honor to have you all here. And numerous U.S. and African government leaders, thank you so much for taking the time to be here and demonstrate your keen interest in doing business on the African continent, creating value, and transforming lives. I encourage everyone here to start having conversations about opportunities that might be available and take the time to build the meaningful relationships that are the foundation, like Flory said, of all great and lasting partnerships. My sincerest hope is that we will all have the opportunity to reflect back in years to come and say with pride that during this summit, we made connections that made a difference and also resulted in improving the lives of millions of people around the world. And working together, ladies and gentlemen, I know that we can. Thank you all so much and welcome again to this summit.
Thank you. I would like to welcome the head of U.S. delegation on behalf of U.S. government's Ambassador Troy Fitrell, Senior Bureau Official for the Bureau for African Affairs.
Senor President, all the heads of state and government here, as my friend John said, all protocols observed, but especially welcome to the private sector. You're why we're here today. Thank you for being here. I'll say it's wonderful to be home because I always feel at home in Angola. I first came here 25 years ago, and I have to say, Angola has changed a lot in 25 years. When we sit here and have this summit, after some 28 years of the Corporate Council on Africa, big thanks Flory, John, think of the difference in Angola from 25 years ago to today, and see that you're on a trajectory that is just astonishing. Sometimes we dwell too much on the negative, and we need to recognize the positive. When you look at what Angola has done over 25 years, when you look at what Angola has done over the last couple of years, it's astonishing. And that mirrors everything that's happening on the continent today. Africa is not the same place it was 25 years ago. And that's why this conference, this summit, has evolved over the 28 years we've been doing this. And that's why our relationships evolve over the 25 years that we've been doing this. When we met many of us met in Abidjan at the CEO Forum last month, and we unveiled a new commercial strategy for the United States government. And we did that because the world has changed, the United States has changed, markets have changed. The economies are vastly different today than they were 25 years ago. And we felt that we needed to have those kinds of changes in our US government activities. So let me just quick run down. The first thing we did was a complete new emphasis on commercial diplomacy. Our embassies, I'm talking to you, private sector, our embassies work for you. We have changed the incentive structure. This is their primary goal, and this is what we judge our ambassadors on how well they support you. And to our heads of state and government here today, if our ambassadors are not bringing business deals and commercial opportunity and sustainable economic growth to you, ask them why they're not, because they should be. They should be with you, offering opportunities every day. The second thing is to look at the overall kinds of market reform. What do businesses need to survive? And you know who we ask about that? We ask AmChams, American Chambers of Commerce. We ask the private sector, what do you need? And the fantastic thing is, every government I've worked with across the African continent also wants to have a better business environment. If it were easy, it would have happened yesterday. But it's hard, so we're doing it tomorrow. But we work with the private sector, we work with the AmChams on this to make this happen. This is a real, true partnership. Third, we need massive investments in infrastructure. That's targets of opportunity. And when we say infrastructure, people normally like to think, okay, sure, railroads, maybe some power grids. Let's not forget digital. You cannot participate effectively in the modern economy without a safe and reliable digital architecture in your countries. And all the people who do these for all forms of infrastructure and for the equity that finances it are here in this place today. We'll be engaging throughout this conference, but also every day and in every country in Africa going forward. The next are trade missions. We came today, this one's easy. We brought on, there's almost 1,000 business people here today. But all of our official travel in Africa, we will be carrying business leaders with us everywhere we go because this is a priority. Next, I don't have to convince the people in this room. You're already here. But we've got 300,000 business-ready American businesses who aren't doing business in Africa. That's my job. We have to find them. We have to make sure they understand what's available here and bring them to the market as well. And last, it's awfully easy. I spend a lot of time talking to my host government counterparts about the things they ought to do. And I talk to all of you business people about all the things that you ought to do. But you know, we have some work to do as well. And we have some homework to do. And that is, we need to make the US government institutions faster, more nimble, more aggressive. And that's why we have with us, we have the Development Finance Corporation, we have the Exim Bank, we have the Trade and Development Agency, we have the Department of Commerce. All of these entities work together now. And when I have, and many of you know, when you've had delegations coming to Washington, when you've come to my office, I have DFC, Exim, and Commerce there with me, because you should hear us all with one voice. We should all hear you with one set of ears. We do this. We have to work together on this. One of the reasons I'm so excited about the opportunities is because I believe the American way of doing business is incredibly useful for Africa. We are focused on the latest technology, the latest innovation. We invest in our workforces. We provide value over a life cycle. I always like to say that the General Electric Wabtec locomotives, 95% of all the locomotives ever built are still operating today, even the ones that are 60, 70 years old. Because when you buy one, you buy for life. We have these opportunities, these kinds of investments. When you go look at an American company, you don't find Americans working on the shop floor. You find locals. But it's not just there. You find the technicians, the financiers, the accountants. You go into the boardrooms and you find locals there, because investing in the human capital is a fundamentally American way of doing business. How many Africans in this room are working for American companies, are leading American companies? Because that's how we do business. And that's what is valuable for being here. What I see are African governments, private sector, and the US government working together. And that's where we are. We have a common trajectory, we have a common goal, and we are working together. Somos juntos. Nous sommes ensemble. We are together. And this is a tremendous opportunity today. We're going to be doing deals this week, but we're also going to be giving rise to deals that we'll be doing for the next couple of years. This is the opportunity. It's wonderful to see you all here, and we're going to have a great week.
Thank you, Ambassador Troy Fitzgerald. I would like to take these special moments to bring to the stage our keynote speaker for this opening ceremony, His Excellency João Lourenço, the Chair of the African Union Heads of State Assembly and President of the Republic of Angola.
The private sector remains one of the main drivers of development and prosperity. Governments and public services can hardly go beyond a certain level in job and wealth creation. It is the combination of sound public policies and a vibrant private sector that will guarantee a better future to our nations. At the same time, it is of paramount importance to introduce reforms in the global financial system and WTO rules and regulations. Indeed, there is a need for a balanced and equitable global system where developing nations and emerging markets are better protected. This forum should not only be articulated around how best our companies and businesses can thrive together, but it should also enable us to advance critical thinking to contribute to the new global order, which is marked with uncertainty and confusion. The upcoming G20 summit in South Africa later this year will be a very good opportunity to make Africa's voice be heard loud and clear. The African continent is considered by many as the powerhouse of the future global growth. West Africa is rising through agribusiness and agro-industry. Southern Africa, led by countries like South Africa and Botswana, is leveraging its mineral wealth and industrial base. Northern Africa, with Morocco, Egypt, and Algeria, has become a hub for renewable energy and light manufacturing. Central Africa is advancing timber processing and furniture manufacturing. Eastern Africa, known for its natural beauty and cultural heritage, continues to lead in tourism and digital innovation. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the African Union Commission views U.S. Africa private sector collaboration a game changer in our quest for shared prosperity.
Thank you, His Excellency Mahamoud Ali Yusuf. I would like to invite to the stage His Excellency Wamkele Mene, Secretary General of the Africa Free Trade Continental Area, to make his special remarks.
Thank you very much, Madam Program Director. President João Manuel Lourenço, our gracious host, Your Excellencies, our heads of states and government, Your Excellency Chairperson Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, the Chairperson of the Corporate Council on Africa, the CEO of the Corporate Council on Africa, honorable ministers, leaders of the private sector, ladies and gentlemen. First, let me express my gratitude to His Excellency President Lourenço for the invitation to participate at this important business summit. I wish to commend the Corporate Council on Africa and the government of the Republic of Angola for the consistent effort over the last year to promote stronger trade ties and deepen economic integration between our two regions. As was expressed in very eloquent terms by His Excellency the Chairperson Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, the world is confronting turbulent times, deepening geopolitical shifts, disruptions in global supply chains, trade rules that are applied unevenly. All of these challenges have a materially adverse impact on the trade and investment environment. AGOA, the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act, over the decades supported mutually beneficial trade and investment between the African continent and the United States. The investments that were made in AGOA over the decades benefited both smallholder farmers, factories, as well as U.S. investors. As we accelerate the implementation of the AfCFTA, which has now been ratified by 49 members of the African Union, and trading is commencing within this regime, the objective for the African continent is to deepen continental integration, ensuring continuity and predictability of trade, particularly trade between the United States and African countries in the context of AGOA. This challenging moment calls for decisive and constructive U.S.-Africa engagement to reinforce the global trading system, the multilateral trading rules that underpin the fairness of trade, open markets for avenues for sustainable development, and a rules-based system with the WTO at its core, protecting both large and small economies. Through the AFCFTA and under the wisdom of our heads of states, our continent is on a march where investment and trade in Africa is underpinned by a clear rules-based system with rules that help us to find solutions in trade and investment disputes in a manner that is orderly. The implementation of the AFCFTA is indeed an ambitious undertaking. It has to be ambitious because for too long, our continent has suffered from the effects of fragmentation and the effects of underdevelopment. A continent of 1.4 billion people with a combined GDP of $3.4 trillion, youngest existing population, as well as attributes of positive economic growth as projected by the African Development Bank, certainly is open for business. As I mentioned, 49 state parties of the agreement establishing the AFCFTA. The foundation for transformational, trade-led growth across our continent certainly is there. The projected combined consumer and business spending by the year 2020 is set to be at $6.7 trillion. And by the year 2050, it is set to be at $16.1 trillion, presenting a unique and timely opportunity for U.S. investors who seek to expand their investments across the African continent. The implementation of the AFCFTA, as well as other programs of the African Union, indeed position our continent to be resilient in these turbulent times and to have industrial-led growth on the back of green industrial investment. Our economic future cannot, of course, depend on trade alone. Production must be at the center of our strategy. Value addition of critical minerals, expansion of manufacturing capacity, and generation of sustainable jobs for our young people on the back of Africa's digital economy must be a priority. In this regard, our heads of states adopted in February this year the Digital Trade Protocol, a protocol that shall leverage on Africa's digital economy, positioning young Africans in particular, who are at the cutting edge of digital innovation to benefit from Africa's digital economy. The Protocol on Digital Trade harnesses a digital economy that the International Finance Corporation estimates that by the year 2035 shall be at over 700 billion United States dollars. We therefore, with the leadership of our heads of states, are determined to create opportunities for young Africans on the back of the digital economy. Let me conclude, Your Excellencies, by mentioning a few words on green industrialization. Here, in this regard, our heads of states have demonstrated the necessary leadership through the Nairobi Climate Declaration. The outcome of that first of its kind inaugural Green Industrialization Summit presented the world with an action plan for Africa's Green Industrialization Initiative, focusing on the processing of critical minerals, green manufacturing, green trade corridors such as the Lobito Corridor, and other initiatives that are intended not only to ensure low carbon transition, but also initiatives that are intended to ensure that through green trade, we create jobs whilst adhering to our environmental imperatives. In this era of the AFCFTA, the conditions for a more dynamic and mutually beneficial relationship between the United States and the African continent is indeed firmly in place. As I mentioned earlier, the AFCFTA provides this framework. We would, however, note that it is important to adhere to rules of trade. And as the African continent, we have done our part in defending multilateralism, in defending the multilateral trading system. We have adopted all of the rules of the WTO, imperfect as it may be, and we have adapted them to ensure that our conditions, peculiar conditions, are addressed. The multilateral trading system is Africa's only opportunity at fair trade and fair investment. Through our collective efforts, guided by clarity, purpose, and mutual respect, we believe that we have an opportunity to forge ahead in new U.S. Africa trade and investment relations with AGOA at its core. I want to thank all of you for your kind attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Secretary General Wamkele Mene, for your remarks. I would like to invite Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, President of the African Development Bank Group, to the stage to receive a special award, the Distinguished Economic Leadership Award, to be presented by Mr. Jean-Raymond Boulay, Vice Chairman of the CCA Board and Chairman of the Boulay Group.
President Lorenzo, I'm very honored to be standing here today as one of your very grateful investors in your country, sir. Your Excellencies, honorable ministers, esteemed diplomats, visionary business leaders, entrepreneurs, and distinguished guests, good morning. It is a privilege to stand before such an esteemed audience at the 17th U.S. Africa Business Summit in Luanda, where we come together to advance the shared vision of a stronger, more prosperous U.S.-Africa economic partnership. Today, we celebrate Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, who, as President of the African Development Bank for the last decade, has advanced Africa's development through the bank High Five priorities, targeting critical sectors for transformative growth: Light Up, Empower Africa, Feed Africa, Industrialize Africa, Integrate Africa, and improve the quality of life for the people of Africa, most of all. By mobilizing projects in these priority sectors, as well as billions in investment, Africa's economic trajectory has been redefined, making it a more attractive destination for businesses, fostering deeper commercial engagement, stronger trade and investment flows, and mutual prosperity for the nations of Africa and its partners, including the United States. On behalf of the Corporate Council on Africa, it is with great pride that we present the 2025 Distinguished Economic Leader Award to Dr. Akinwumi Adesina. This in recognition of transformative leadership advancing Africa's economic development, and improving the lives of millions of Africans. The Board of Directors and members of Corporate Council on Africa, including the many U.S. and African public and private sector leaders joining us today, look forward to building on your leadership, legacy, and vision, sir. Please join me now in congratulating Dr. Adesina on this well-deserved honor. Thank you.
Wow, well, thank you very much, John Raymond Bull. I'm really very touched and humbled. Thank you so very much. I'm grateful. Your Excellency, João Lourenço, President of the Republic of Angola and Chairman of the African Union, and my dear brother and friend, and you're here with your beautiful, my sister, First Lady, always elegant in an elegant country. Your Excellencies, heads of state and government, the chairperson of the African Union Commission, my brother Mohamedou Ali Yusuf, their Ambassador Troy Fitrell, my dear sister, an incredible woman, Floriza Lisa, President and CEO of the Corporate Council on Africa. Please give it up to her because she does a phenomenal job. Thank you, Floriza. Thank you. The CCA Chair, John Olajide, and all board members of the Corporate Council on Africa, honorable ministers, senior U.S. government officials, business leaders, CEOs of the U.S. and African corporations, ladies and gentlemen, friends of Africa, good morning. First, thank you very much, dear President Lourenço, for hosting this year's U.S. Africa Business Summit. It's always great to be here in Angola. I'd like to express my deepest appreciation to the Corporate Council on Africa for this great honor of receiving the Distinguished Economic Leadership Award. Thank you, and thank you. I will always cherish this as much as I will cherish the excellent relationship that we have built with the United States of America and the Corporate Council on Africa over the 10 years of my tenure as president of the African Development Grant Group. I'd like to thank you, Flori, in particular John and the great team at the Corporate Council of Africa for all that you do in bringing us together to advance U.S.-Africa partnerships. Thanks again. As I receive this award, I have a message on Africa's economic opportunities and proposition. Smart investors should pay attention to Africa. African countries represent 13 out of the 20 fastest growing economies in the world. The New York Times ran a big headline that the world is becoming more African, with 1 in 4 people in the world being African. To feed the world, think Africa. That's because 65% of the uncultivated arable land left in the world is in Africa. To support global energy transition, think Africa. That is because Africa has one of the largest renewable energy potentials in the world and vast reserves of critical minerals and rare earth vital for manufacturing of computers, mobile phones, windmills, aerospace equipments, electric vehicles, and battery energy storage systems. The African Continental Free Trade Area is worth $3.4 trillion. Africa offers high rates of returns on investment. Don't believe me, believe the data. The United Nations Development Program, recent Africa Insights, Investment Insights, shows that investing in Africa gives internal rates of returns of between 15 and 20%. How about confidence of investors? And many of you are here today. Don't believe me. Again, believe the data. The African Capital Markets Activity Report, released in April of 2024, shows that African fundraising more than doubled to $4 billion across 22 funds, even as global private capital fundraising fell by 19% year. That's fine. How about the risk of investing? Don't believe me, believe the data. The Moody's Analytics report on cumulative losses due to default to infrastructure globally shows that losses to Africa are 1.9% compared to 6.6% in North America, 10.4% in Latin America, 12% in Eastern Europe, 4.6% in Western Europe, and 4.6% in Western Asia. Bottom line, Africa is the least risky in terms of investing in infrastructure. And that's why the African Development Bank has invested over $55 billion in infrastructure over the past 10 years under my presidency, making us the largest financier of regional infrastructure. The African Development Bank is a key, thank you, it's a key strategic partner with the United States, Angola, and Zambia on the development of the Lobito Corridor. This critical corridor will link the vast copper mining areas of Zambia and the Democratic Republic of Congo to the port of Angola, improve mineral supplies, unlock agricultural potentials, and create jobs. The African Development Fund will be providing, Mr. President, I'm happy to tell you today, $500 million in support of the development of the Lobito Corridor. In addition, the African Development Bank will also provide an additional $1 billion over 5 years for complementary investments in the Lobito Corridor, including agricultural value chains, roads, and energy. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as we build transport corridors, let us also build strategic partnership corridors. Strategic partnership corridors between the United States and Africa. Strategic partnerships that prioritize capital investments in infrastructure, agriculture, mineral industrialization, development of digital infrastructure, as well as capital markets. Strategic partnerships for shared prosperity between the United States and Africa. And here I'm just saying, Ambassador here, you know, we love the United States, and I just want to say that when we think about the issue of trade that the chair mentioned of the African Union, the total amount of trade of Africa with the United States is only $34 billion. It's about 1.2% of total global trade. And when you look at it in terms of the amount of trade surplus that everybody worries about, and the US is right in trying to make sure that is done, but for us in Africa, it's only $7.4 billion, it's probably about 0.2%. So it's very, very small for Africa. And so what we're trying to say is that what's needed is more trade between the United States and Africa, and more trade between Africa and the United States, not less. And what is needed are more US companies and US capital putting capital to work in Africa. There is no nation in the world that has a greater way of making capital work than the United States. And we want that capital working here in Africa. Push it up to the United States and please welcome them. The US and Africa strategic partnerships should move beyond aid to investments. That is the way to go. Act on the data, not perceptions. Think Africa. Think opportunities. Think competition. From the US DFC to the US Exim Bank to institutional investors and capital allocators, invest in Africa. The African Development Bank Group will be there, hand in hand with you, together with Corporate Council on Africa, and I will be, of course, your greatest champion today and well into the future. Let's make Africa and US great again together. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.
Thank you, President Adesina, and congratulations once again on a well-deserved awards. Our last but not least special remark will be delivered by Luisa Ortega, the President of Coca-Cola Africa. Please welcome her to the stage, and then we will watch a video from our diamond sponsor, Chevron, and emerald sponsor, Mitrelli.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, partners, or protocols observed. It is a privilege to be here today as we chart new pathways for shared partnership and prosperity between the countries of Africa and the United States. It's an honor to be here today on behalf of the Coca-Cola system in Africa that includes our 30 local bottling partners across the different countries in the continent. The story of Coca-Cola begins in Atlanta, in Georgia, the United States, in 1886. Coca-Cola was first served as a fountain beverage before a bottling system was developed that would bring Coca-Cola all around the world. We learned from our earliest days that our business thrived when we invested in local communities in the US and beyond. For more than 139 years, our business model has been remarkably consistent. As we expand around the world, we maintain intensely local roots in the US while also investing in the local communities where we operate. Which brings me to Africa, where I will focus in today's comments. The Coca-Cola system's journey in Africa began almost a century ago in 1928 in South Africa. Since then, we've grown into a system that operates across Africa, anchored by partnerships and with our bottlers, thousands of local suppliers, retailers, and entrepreneurs. We are deeply rooted in the communities where we operate, with a model that creates jobs, strengthens local industries, and uplifts communities. We source locally. We manufacture locally. We distribute locally, helping to build a stronger, more integrated, and prosperous economies across Africa, in the US, and everywhere where we operate around the world. Our strategy in Africa reflects our global ambition to be a total beverage company, offering a diverse portfolio of beverages to meet every consumer's moment. And at the heart of it is our purpose as a company, to refresh the world and make a difference. A purpose that guides every decision we make and every partnership that we do. Today marks a milestone, the launch of our comprehensive socioeconomic impact study for the continent of Africa, conducted with global consultancy Stuart Redqueen. The last time that we conducted a continent-wide study was in 1998. Today, we once again bring you the full picture on our system's social and economic impact, and our confidence in Africa's future. Using advanced modeling tools, Stuart Redqueen measured the Coca-Cola system impact across sectors and regions in 2024, giving us a clear and transparent view of how we contribute for national and regional development. The approach also integrated client-provided operational data with trusted third-party economic sources and industries benchmarks. More than just measuring direct contributions, the analysis uncovered economic interlinkages, showing how the Coca-Cola system drives production, generates income, and supports employment across industries, highlighting the role and commitment to Africa's long-term growth. The results are significant. In 2024, the Coca-Cola system supported more than 1 million jobs across the value chain. Both through our direct operations as well as across the ecosystem of suppliers throughout all the different countries we operate in Africa. In addition, the system contributed $10.4 billion in added value across the value chain in the African communities. Our system spent $4.3 billion on local suppliers, representing 83% of the system's total procurement in Africa. And for every job within our system, 27 additional jobs were supported across Africa's value chain, from farms and factories to retailers and transportation. The data confirms what we've always known: the Coca-Cola system presence is very embedded into the African communities. And that's why we are doubling down, turning insights into action through bold investments that confirm our commitment to the continent of Africa. Last year, the Coca-Cola system announced $1.2 billion of investments across Africa over the next 5 years. And we are hopeful that a stable and predictable policy environments will enable more investments in the months and years ahead. Additionally, we are investing $25 million by 2030 to help address critical water-related challenges in local communities across 20 African countries, to help safeguard vital watersheds and improve access to clean water by the different communities. Beyond our business operations, we are helping to build a stronger, more resilient communities as we are focused on issues such as advancing water security, evidenced by the water initiative I have just mentioned, packaging sustainability and emissions reductions, and empowering entrepreneurs across Africa. At Coca-Cola, we believe in Africa and in Africa's future. We've participated in and actively supported the growth of Africa for nearly a century. In this context, we welcome the emphasis by the United States on commercial diplomacy as a core focus to its Africa engagement. For the Coca-Cola system to continue investing on the continent, it is important to have key elements in place. Firstly, stable and predictable policy environments enable investment, and that enables growth. And also, clear and consistent frameworks around tax, trade, and regulations give businesses the assurance to plan, to invest, and to scale. As we look to the future, our one truth is clear. Africa's growth is our growth. And it will take all of us, government, civil society, businesses, and development partners to continue the journey of this growth together. We would like to thank and acknowledge the governments represented here today. From the United States, this summit's host country, Angola, and the many governments across Africa. We are very grateful for your partnership in this journey in building a more prosperous and resilient Africa.